Hey, great to see you, Joe Riley. How you doing?
I'm good, Carlos. Welcome. It's glad to be back here. It's since a week ago, and I'm proud to say all four episodes have now been watched, and need has been filled.
Oh, there's so many things that I want to talk about that just you see them just little things and it's so anachronistic. But before we get started on the White Shadow, we got to talk about I'll say our Wolves. I'm not a basketball guy, but I've adopted the Wolves along with your love for them. And sadly their season's over. So give me a non-basketball fan a rundown of what happened and now what do they do? Season's over. What's the plan?
Yeah, I think on two things. It seems like they got worn down. They ran out of gas. The having to play against somebody like Wembanyama
Yeah.
really affected a lot of players and how they could play, how they could shoot. Randall did not have a very good series, particularly. And Edwards obviously was limited because of his injuries, but we just didn't have the get up and go. So I think I heard a stat last night was in the Denver series, 40% of our shots were in the paint.
Yeah.
In the San Antonio series, it was 20%.
Does that mean that next year the Wolves are going to have to do a better job of load management, if that is still the euphemism for giving guys days off?
We'll see about that. I'm more wondering who's going to be on the team next year. So
Okay.
is Julius Randle still around is a question. And then who knows? I don't think Jaden McDaniels is untouchable, I think. And then Naz Reid, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting off season. I think it's all going to be predicated too on who can we surround Ant with to
Yeah.
make him better. And I don't know for Rudy. Rudy plays really well.
Yeah.
He didn't match up well against the Spurs apparently. So I'll be curious to see what happens this offseason, but I'm a fan, and
Yeah.
usually I like to go to one away game each year. So I didn't go this year because I went to Germany, but I think we'll see how they do this here offseason, what the next year holds. But San Antonio deserved it; they played well, and
Yeah.
so they're 1 and 2 seed Oklahoma City versus San Antonio.
For basketball fans, that's got to be the one people have had penciled on their calendar for since the playoffs began, probably.
Yeah. So that's good, but no, I don't have to watch Sunday now. That's the only good thing.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. We can lock in a podcasting time that is not subject to the vagaries of the NBA schedule.
There we go.
But you and I, we've done 2 episodes already. We talked about our series, The White Shadow. We talked about the pilot, and now we're going to go into season 1, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, very good.
But before we get started there, I want to hit you with some White Shadow trivia.
Oh, right. Okay.
All right, everybody knows that it is Carver High, and also they'll let us know it is Washington Carver High School. What is their nickname?
Ooh, I should know this. Washington Carver Sentinels? No, I don't know.
You know what? They never say the team nickname. So
really?
Online communities have dubbed them the Peanuts, given that they're Washington Carver High. But every single piece of clothing and uniform just says Carver on it. It does not say.
Okay.
It does not say,
The trick trivia question, but I like it.
Trick trivia question. I feel like at what point do you ask it? Because even that, you'd be like, I should know this. At a certain point in time, you've watched enough shows, you're like, wait a minute, maybe they don't have a name.
Yep, very good.
All right. Episode 2 is very timely. Back when you and I were young folks, there were these things that they would feed us children in the afternoon called the ABC After School Special.
Correct.
And I remember there was an after school special about drinking.
Yes.
And it felt like episode 2 of season 1 with our man Jackson. Episode title, Here's Mud in Your Eye. Felt like an after school special about drinking.
It did. Jackson reluctant to kind of get involved onto the team. Yeah. And I thought the way that they handled his drinking problem was pretty curious and pretty personal, right? So they got they had somebody come in from the outside to talk to him one-on-one, which in today's world, that would be a big deal if something like that would happen.
But you know what? In today's world, we are all culturally aware of 12-stepping and Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff. I think back in the 70s, it was still, alcoholism still was, we were barely out of the Mad Men era.
Yeah.
And drinking was a natural part. I started my career My very first non-restaurant adult job as an intern was working for lobbyists. And many of the law firms I worked at, there definitely was a bottle in the bottom drawer
Gotcha.
of the partner's desk, and it would come out. In a certain sense, like I said, so I try to give the show grace from a timing standpoint. I thought that was well done, but I did notice, and I want to back up here real quick, something that they do on these episodes, which bugs me.
Okay.
When people could first start buying DVDs or then streaming, they figured out that people really don't want to see the credits, and you skip credits and this and that. One thing I guess I just didn't remember that they did was the preview before the show. They do that on the episodes that I'm watching, where you're basically getting 45-second synopsis of the entire show at the top. It doesn't pick up from last time or give you highlights. They lay out the whole plot. And I just thought, I don't know if that was unique to White Shadow but I find it very annoying.
Yeah, I know this. I think that was a lot of those shows in the 70s. They would do that. Like McMillan and Wife, I remember that kind of a thing, which was another kind of forgotten television there too.
Absolutely.
As well.
That one actually might be, we'll have to look, because there was a, McMillan and Wife was a rotating series with other shows. It had a time spot.
Oh, like with Barnaby Jones?
There was one who was related to the McMillan and Wife and was part of the one where this week it'll be McMillan and Wife. The other one was, what was his name? McLeod. And, he'd be on his horse in the middle of Manhattan.
Yep, I remember that very well. Weaver, right? Dennis Weaver.
We will put polls for our fans that don't yet know they're huge fans of our podcast. Polls up to see what shows, but I think those are both very good shows, very obscure shows that maybe you and I and a couple people we know may remember, which makes it perfect for us.
Exactly. But no, and I thought that the Jackson, when Coach went to Jackson's dad, who was a minister.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very true and very real discussion about what a dad, his relationship was with his kid, not setting aside the context, but just in general, even in that time, that era.
That's awfully hard, right? I'm not a parent, so I always, whenever I venture across that line, I say that, but it must be very hard line to cross between defending my child.
Yeah.
Is this person coming and attacking my child? Or are they coming with wanting to help my child? And accepting it as help was the healthy way that the dad took it, as opposed to now you'd be afraid of lawsuits or whatever, this or that. But I think that's one of the things that we talked about, and maybe we're reading way too much into it, and we probably spent way too much money on expensive education, both of us combined, that we get into this analysis. But Ken Reeves kind of had a special relationship when he was a unique character, and he would not go to the counselor or this or that. He's like, this kid looks like he has a problem. Let's talk to his dad.
Yep.
Which is the way a normal non-teacher person, non-person that's been coached by district lawyers and stuff would handle the situation. I would argue the healthy way to handle it, but it was good. So he went to the dad, although then the dad was no longer involved. The kid has a drinking problem, but getting him therapy and stuff, let's leave that up to the basketball coach.
Yep, and then dad was like, we don't really have that great of a relationship. He gone his own way, so you can see kind of that a little bit in there. But I found that particular episode, there was the philosophy of the free throw.
There was.
In that episode. It was
all part of an elaborate, I call it almost Scooby-Doo-esque ruse. They all confronted him, and they all come out from somewhere in the dark locker room.
Yep. So I thought,
no one's defending you. It's free.
That was sort of a great television lost and forgotten soliloquy by a fake basketball coach.
Yeah. Now, he did something at the very beginning of the episode, the very first practice. He does something I never had a basketball coach. You probably had. I think I had a gym teacher that did it, that would start everything by unleashing the bag of basketballs all over the place. But he does it and then does an introduction that all of us from our era had coaches start the practice with. Hello, ladies.
Yep.
And I remember a football coach way back where we were ladies until the day before game day, and I called you gentlemen today because you guys had a good week of practice as gentlemen, and this is how we're going to play. I would hope that is not what it's handled nowadays.
Yeah. I recall ladies. He was referred to them as animals.
Animals. Oh, yeah.
A few times. So
Yeah,
it is
actually, he
something.
did. He called him yeah, he did. And I just kind of said, in the context, it's okay. Because in the context of his relationship with the players, he really is developing. Obviously, you don't know how much time has passed, but there is a bond that's developing. And we see that, thinking back of a bunch of kids are going to work with the coach to help with where they're like, oh, he doesn't have a problem. Because I've had people in my life who've had problems with chemical dependency, and I was fully aware of it the whole time. And I've had acquaintances where, unless I had heard, I would never have known.
Yeah.
They're functional enough.
Yeah. And it seems like that episode kind of ends and there's no conclusion. He's going to counseling with that lady. We never see her, at least in the next two episodes we haven't. And then,
as you pointed out, the captain of the Voyager, Kate Mulroon.
Is it? Yeah, I think it is. I might have to double check that. It looks like her.
I'm almost positive. It looks like her, but she was much older when she was the captain. So I think it is.
Yeah, we'll have to double check that. But yeah, that was an interesting episode and one that sort of ends, and he seems fine after, but then we'll have to see where we're at in episode 5 or wherever we're at.
So a couple other little tiny things I noticed in that episode. One, I just kind of got a kick out of the fact that in the corner of the gym, right in the corner along the sidelines, there's a pommel horse.
Oh,
I just found that just to be a good touch by the staging department or whatever they call the folks that have to put that in there. And then they mentioned something that I remember hearing in my youth, probably on Cheech and Chong videos, but I've never experienced in real life. At some point in the episode, someone mentions a quote-unquote lid of marijuana.
Oh, yes.
I've heard that in cultural references, the drug unit called a lid.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you either.
But I do not know how much that is, if that's a lot or if that's a little. And I was someone that was involved in experimentation when I was a youth, but never at the lid level. Maybe that was an LA thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that was for your bigger users or something, but I did notice that and think, I still to this day don't know what a lid is. If only there was a way in 2026 for me to find out what that is.
There you go.
All right. So, anything else on
episode 2?
Here's Mud in Your Eye?
So just that the actor who plays Jackson,
yes,
he is still acting. As of 2024, he has a credit. He was in Dolomite. My Name is Dolomite, the Eddie
I have not seen that. And I've heard a lot of the backstory, but I've not seen it.
So he's in that, and he splits his time between, according to IMDb, between Hollywood and St. Louis. So still alive, still acting. I didn't catch an age, but so that's one for the plus column of the actors who's been there a lot.
That actually, I will have to spend more time on it, but I think that maybe the cast was older, but they did not have kind of the horrific backstories that many casts carry with them of young people.
But that's what episode 2, and that moves to episode 3, which is quite the intriguing episode.
It is. I also am wondering, and I am going to use this phrase because we're talking about a 70s show, but after the doctor and then the sports producer on this one, I'm wondering if somebody, Bruce Paltrow or somebody running the show said, hey, we need a babe of the week.
This is true. It was.
He's got. And by the way, I don't know what the local sports shows, but she's driving a Lotus Turbo Esprit, which in the 70s is like the James Bond car. So she's doing well for herself.
It was a very interesting episode where we learned how much Ken makes, which is $250 a week or $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year. And then, so I thought that was quite interesting. Obviously, we'd never really kind of hear what she is making.
No.
But I thought that their relationship really, because obviously it's an hour show, sped up into that they were a couple in that particular episode. But I think that, is it believable that he would stay at the school and coach? And the only thing I thought was that, and they're having dinner together, and when he talks about coaching, he did a very good job in kind of showing how powerful coaching was versus a commentary. So I thought that was pretty good. And I liked his TV commentary that he predicted correctly.
We've already discussed kind of thing on the first episode. You got to suspend belief a little bit. Say NBA player to high school basketball coach and not elite prep school graduate, 5-star candidates, but inner city LA. You got to suspend belief on that. Once you do, he does bond. Nobody feels worse for him for ghosting Gomez. In the episode, one of the things that happens is he's being pursued, he's being seduced into a potentially lucrative, or definitely much more lucrative, sports announcing / personality career. And in doing that, he's in a time crunch and he misses a call from Gomez. And what he doesn't realize, I can't deal with this now. And it was Gomez's one phone call. So, and as rizzed out as Gomez was with their fancy new uniforms that they got for Reeves agreeing to be on the Where Are They Now segment. He ends up, and like I said, I think that Reeves is just devastated by that.
Oh, yeah. And that was kind of a poignant thing. And the one thing I always thought about this episode, and it had been referenced before, but they kept saying the word ghetto.
Yeah.
Ghetto high school.
Yes.
Ghetto. They live in the ghetto. This is the ghetto. And it was jarring for somebody from 2026, where maybe would be so jarring in 20.
Well, and it would have been a little jarring too, because like, did we have a ghetto? Where it's like going, do you remember a guy who was the Minneapolis police chief in the 80s by the name of Tony Boza?
I remember that guy. He came from New York.
Yeah, he came from New York. I got to know him pretty well, and he got to know my parents just through, he was a speaker at a dinner, and he sat down with my parents and was talking this and that. But his favorite thing was, in the 80s, there's crack, and there was money to be made, and there were gang wars and this and that. And him coming from New York, he would laugh. He said, Minnesota does not have a gang problem. You guys do not. So if I asked Tony Boza in 1986 or the 1970s, does Minneapolis have a ghetto? He would say no. But it is, have you ever heard, one of my favorite road trip things to do is to do sing-alongs with my significant other. And Elvis is always really fun for that.
That's the song.
So you pick up like an Elvis #1s or #2s album and you get In the Ghetto.
Yep.
By Elvis. And it's very jarring. You're right. It is jarring to hear that word, but it's referred to as that.
Yeah, a very poignant song. The circle in a bad way of life.
Yeah. But ghetto to me seems, because as I was getting older, my dad would always say, get a haircut, you look like a hippie. I'm like, Dad, nobody uses that word anymore. It's like ghetto. Is that word even used by anyone anymore?
That's a good point. It's a good point. And and it was as you called it, this is your favorite. Gomez was in jail because of his famous hibachi. Was one of the items. I was struck that only cost $13.
And the hibachi stove is like a little tiny square grill.
Yeah.
It's a grill. He tried to shoplift a grill.
Yeah. And the total price was $13 that he stole. His probation officer read off.
Oh, my God.
But that was pretty good. And then Reeves kind of saying, I'll be in charge of him. It's not really defined. There's no paper signed. He's not living with him. So I just thought that was interesting. And then the guy I liked that I kept looking at on the screen, kind of like we talked about.
Where do I know him from is a lot of what you're playing on this show.
Yeah, so Edward Grover, who played the agent or the producer guy, he was in his biggest show that I remember, and I was like, where do I know this guy from? So I had to look it up. He was Lieutenant Brubaker in Baretta.
Oh, my God, yes! Yes!
35 episodes, he played Lieutenant Brubaker. And I just, I couldn't tell you exactly what the interaction was in between in Baretta, but it was quite that. Remember that show distinctly from back then.
Oh, yeah. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time, Joe. I mean,
that's right.
Truer words were never spoken on network TV.
And that was one of the greatest theme songs you could have.
It was, and having a cockatoo. Having an exotic pet was a big thing in the 70s. From Greg Evigan riding around with a monkey. Actually, Clint Eastwood riding around with a monkey.
Yep.
Baretta had his bird.
Yep, that was cool. I remember watching that Baretta and saying, "Ooh, I want to see the bird. I want to see the bird."
Yeah, oh yeah.
But it was good. And then he was also in probably another show that I have not thought about since it aired. He only did one episode, but it was a show called I Shied, which was a cop show from New York starring Joe Don Baker.
Oh, I remember Joe Don Baker, sure.
But I just remember the name. I can't remember anything about it, but that's another lost.
You know where my brain went is in that era, late 70s, the Minnesota Vikings had a punter by the name of Mike Eischeid.
Oh yeah, that's right. Maybe that's what I'm kind of confusing it with.
Wait a minute. Was this guy the former punter of the Vikings? White Shadow? That's amazing.
But I just remember, I kind of remember that. But maybe I'm confusing it with the punter. That's a good point, Carlos. Never thought about that.
That is one of those. I'm fascinated by memory and how brains work. I've done a lot of research since my dad with his illness, and just how the brain works is fascinating to me. And the fact that I have a synapse somewhere in this big noggin that remembers the name of an obscure punter of the Vikings is like going,
that's great.
There is no evolutionary advantage to having that piece of information. It does nobody no good unless you're doing a White Shadow podcast, in which case it's a handy anecdote.
This particular episode 3, another thing I noted was it was Christmas Day it aired.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of weird. And then they threw it back to I think it was Kevin Hooks. I forget the character. Oh no, I'm blanking on his character that he plays. But they were walking down the street and they did a little homage to Casablanca.
Yes. That was some assistant producer who got to direct on that side. So she said, you know what? Yep, that was that. I thought that same thing, but I forgot to include it in my notes.
I bet you in 1978 that would have gone right over my head.
Absolutely. Yep.
And when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't get this in 1978. But I really enjoyed that episode. And obviously, Reeves has to stay. We know he's going to stay. But I think they made it fairly, suspension of belief, but it's fairly believable. There's really another stake in the ground that he's bonding with the kids.
This is a credit to Ken Howard. I really believe that the character they created. No, I've seen more of it, right? So I don't know how much of it is built in and how much of it is early on, but he really does have it's like, you guys are a bunch of goofballs, but you're my damn goofballs, right? You know what I mean? Where it's like, I feel like the way the show is done, I really believe that character cares about his players.
Yeah, I agree. And then, is there anything else to episode 3? Because I always found episode 4 kind of fascinating.
Episode 4 is fascinating, and I think that we hold that one off because I want to do a little research.
Okay.
I think there were a lot of semi-pro potential, make some cash, street game 3. And I think that there was a market for that in the 70s, but I'd like to do a little research before we come back to that. We're pretty close once we add in the music to our our goal is to make each episode about a car ride.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We want this to be a fun little diversion, and we'll hold off and we'll start next week with episode 4, Bonus Baby. We'll get to see Warren Coolidge's head get bigger and bigger, which I think is a theme throughout the series that we'll see again.
Yep. And he, as all of the actors on screen other than Howard, has the biggest presence and the most.
Yeah.
And I think he as an actor in that role was great, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, he was good. I remember seeing him in so many different things, but the other series I remember seeing him, he was the dad of Jill Hennessy, where Jill Hennessy was a coroner in Boston. Anyways, her father was played by Ken Howard in that show. I cannot remember the name of it, but
gotcha.
Real quick, you're still an NBA fan, so you'll still be watching the playoffs with not as much part attached to it.
I will watch the games tomorrow.
And you're a baseball fan, so you're not in a total sports abyss.
No, and the Twins have won 2 out of 3. I don't know how they did last night.
Ryan was pitching too, I think. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But so you're not in the total sports abyss. I just didn't know if one of the things that we were going to eventually get to here is if we can't do one of these and we can record Carlos's first pickleball experience.
Oh yeah, anytime. Yeah,
out on the court for the first time and see if I can pick up pickleball. That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I played this morning, so that's why I'm so casual. Awesome. Good thing this is radio, so to speak.
I have a face for radio, so that's why this will be an audio only podcast until the budget goes way up.
There we go.
All right, Joe, on that note, it's been fun. Another week here talking about television that the world has forgotten, and one of our favorite shows, The White Shadow.
There we go. Yep. Good tune. We'll go at it next week.
All right, sounds good, Joe. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Yep.